Good day. Are we recording? We are recording. That's always a good sign. We are on the ball today. We've already pressed record on the iPad as well, so that's always a good sign. Doing good today, even though the weather's absolutely crazy. It's like thunder and raining. Then, thankfully, there hasn't been any hail, but then it was sunny. It was windy. It's just everything every half an hour. I was a little bit naughty. I had some of these Scotch figures, or more than a few. Yeah. But anyway, I've been eating a lot more sugar than I should probably. Than I should definitely be eating, but that's okay. Bit of a cycle. Let's call it one of those. All goods. I've been thinking I might actually change it to seasons. Season 1, B1, like breakdown 1. Season 1, breakdown 1. I think that makes the most sense. Let's look at this first sort of section. Nice, try not to blow my ears off. I would like to break down into 3 parts, okay, in 3 sort of tension sort of moments, okay? So we have one where we're sort of doing this. Okay, what we're doing there is I am wanting to play it and then bring in the tail. Like I mentioned, grabbing the tail of a very short moment is challenging, especially when you try and do it a couple times and break and bring it back and break. It takes time to really grab, and even then, every clip's a little bit different. And you notice here, we're trying to grab it. Sometimes we grab it, sometimes we miss. Yeah, it just takes a lot more practice, and it's different when you're doing something on the fly like this. You're doing something just spontaneously. But when you get it, it's cool. Something like this, it's great because either way, even if you catch it or you don't, it's still a nice effect. You're still having a bit of fun with the cue point and just creating something different. The main thing here is you're creating that tension, and it makes you're creating a bit of uncertainty, and you're creating a bit of attention in the mix. Yeah, and when it comes in, it's such a release, and it feels so good. At least from my perspective, when you do something like this and you release and you let the song come in, it comes in so beautifully, and you just let the track sort of now build on its own for a little bit. Okay, so that's the first sort of build, if you will. That's the first sort of tension moment that we're creating. What I want to demonstrate here is, we don't have to just create tension and this big emotion and this sort of hype just from, creating this massive build. We don't have to, do anything like that. We can do again this. I swear I was not doing any of this before I started recording. We can do this in like little segments and let the track breathe, then create a bit of the tension, the hype, let the track breathe, and then build up. So we've done the first one, now we're letting it play. Now let me show the second one. I know for something like this, from experience, once it plays, I know, okay, what the vibe's gonna be. So we've started with very few instrumentation in. A great course to look at into structuring the songs is the masterclass for Deadmau5. He did a really good job in explaining how he creates the structures for his songs, what he likes to do. And I would highly recommend that course for any of you, even if you are novices or you have a lot of experience in the creation of music as well as performing as a mixer. Definitely still something to look at, to be just the student and to continue learning. It really shows how he develops a song by starting off with one section, bringing in the next element, what he likes to have in the main sort of chorus, the main sort of key moments in the song, and then what he takes out, etc., to make the song into a record. When you have a lot more of that information, when you develop that experience to creating music, when you play a song and you can hear the key things that are in the music, okay? So I know that once this plays, since there's only the guitar and the vocal there, okay, I know that we have to go somewhere from here, especially because this is more of a funk song, so it has to build up, and that's what it's doing here. So it's starting off with very minimalistic, so guitar, the vocal, okay? And that's our first sort of key moment. Then as we continue, we're bringing in that sort of vinyl break, bringing it in at a key moment when I know that more information is about to come in. So we're timing it musically. And then just before the information comes in, we cut it out and we create our second sort of key tension, key hype moment. As we bring it back in, we release the information and builds the groove. And it's emphasizing that vocal. So we came to dance, and you created this first pocket, you created the second pocket, and it's really hyping things. At least from my perspective, it's really building up that tension. And you don't know what's going to happen right now. Is it going to cut it again? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? Is we going to add more effects? We're going to start from the beginning. That's what creates a great sort of TV show. When you have all these sort of unexpected things happening, you're like, oh, like what's going to happen next? Cool. Now the third key isn't as noticeable. So we have the first one, we're adding the effects, we're using the tail, the reverb, then we're adding the vinyl break, which is our second moment, and our third moment doesn't come in as prominent. It comes in very smoothly with the track. So our third key is creating those effects, creating that momentum, creating that build up. Okay, so here we've created the vinyl break. Allow the song to play now. Now that moment when we do that first effect and the flutters out, that's our key sort of decade. Now this is our third sort of main tension hype moment. Okay, so got those first two. We're creating this tension now in the third one musically through the song. Now we're building up. one thing I know is that we have some progressive house elements in this piece and then in the next one. So we're sort of in that sort of progressive house stage of the mix that I've selected. And I know that a key component for a good amount of progressive house songs is this sort of fade out where you only have the vocal, you have like, a bar or so of very little information, and then this massive sort of this massive drop, or all this information comes all of a sudden, and it's a big moment. The reason I mentioned that is you notice how we time it so we allow the tail, we allow things to dissipate before that drop. Okay, that's really important because otherwise, if you have all this coming in and into that sort of main transition, that chorus moment, not as impactful. It's not going to sound as clear. It's not going to be as it's not going to be as it's not going to be the main focus. You're going to have all this other stuff coming in, and it's going to confuse people. Okay, build in. Cool. Came to dance on, and then release. So we have one, they have the second build, then we have the third hype up. We put them together. We build. Came to dance. Close it back down and let the track go. And that's one way you can create more creative, intriguing sort of build-ups. You can dramatize certain moments in the song and create that experience. So we have 1, 2, 3, build and go. And from my perspective, the way I like to do it, that to me feels more impactful. I feel the groove more because we really emphasized it, and to make moments really sort of impactful, you need to be clear and emphasize those moments. From an engineering perspective, you're looking at, wanting to make a clear distinction with the dynamic range. Okay, so we're building, we stop it, we have a very sharp decrease in volume, and all of a sudden we bring all that information. So we have a very large increase in the volume, which then allows things to really explode, and you can feel that. What I'm doing here is I'm very zoned in on the knob. I think what I'm doing is just seeing what other ones are on there, and if I can do something else with them. But the main thing I'm doing here is just enjoying the music. You notice that I don't do this often, but we've allowed the track to finish. How would you approach this? Okay. On the track that we want to have come in, we've already put in some of the effects. Okay, so in the mode effects, in the sort of the main effects that you have in your channel, so the channel effects, you can have them already activated before the track comes in. All right, and then on the track that's playing, we have added them in the vocal finishes, we're tailing it out, okay? But since we already have the effects coming in from the second piece, okay, we can create that blur between the two so you don't really notice the finishing, okay? What can happen is that if you sort of let the song finish, you have, you can sometimes have a very awkward dead silence, and digital silence can be sometimes awkward. You'll notice this in concussion. All of a sudden, there's just a stop before the drop, okay? And that's deliberate because I know that digital silence is a bit weird and it grabs your attention. All of a sudden, it's just silence. There's nothing there. There's no noise for, there's nothing. It's just silence. It's dead. And it's confronting. All of a sudden, you just stopped and there's nothing. And then it just goes in. And that can sometimes work to your advantage, and sometimes it can be a bit sort of eh. General rule is you only want to do slight pauses. You don't want, for example, this song to play and then you to stop and then do something else and then play the next song. And you never really want the song to have its own sort of completion. I'm just repeating what I'm saying, but generally, you sort of don't want that. The key reason behind it is because you'll lose the groove. And I've had this experience recently at an event, especially when you're playing more mellow music, and the music in general isn't really that sort of upbeat, it's a bit just blah. Doing something like this really doesn't help, especially when you are doing more sort of mellow. Perhaps you're doing house music, you're doing softer tech house vibes, something that's a bit maybe repetitive. You really need to have great skill. We've talked about this before in playing that kind of music to really keep it interesting. One of the key ways is always having things coming in and out, but you're never stopping the groove. You'll notice that very little does the groove stop. There's always something coming in, either the low ends out or you're sweeping through, you're creating effects, you're bringing in the next song, you're bringing in the vocal. There's always something happening, but it doesn't just stop and then you go in the next one, because unless you do it musically, you run into just losing the mix and you lose the audience. And you can imagine yourself dancing and you're enjoying it, and all of a sudden it just stops. Then you have to start all over again and you're doing it, and then it just stops, and then you have to do it all over again all over again, and by the fourth or fifth time you're just exhausted. Okay, I'm gonna go now. You almost don't even want to, because you constantly have to try and try and try. You're creating your pockets, but you're not maintaining the experience. It's different with sort of rock live music. When you're playing one song, then you're playing another one, and then you have those sort of mini sort of breaks in between. It doesn't really work with dance music. Now, there are many factors we can consider of why that is. But that's going to get out of the scope of what I want to do here. Just blanketly, it's sort of just, it's not the same. It's not, just doesn't really work for when you're playing electronic music like this in a DJ mix. When you're expanding that out and you're doing more live instrumentation, and the type of music that you play electronically is less sort of formulaic in its structure like here, then you can do that. But when we have this where it's very four to the floor, it doesn't really work. Okay? You just want to be mindful of that. And the way that we combat that is by creating these tails. We're creating these blurs and these connections together. So that way we're offering that sort of leap forward, and we're saying, no, 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 we're gonna keep going. You know, it's sort of like a tease, and we're not done yet. Let's keep going. Let's keep going, keeping that slight tension in the mix. Cool. Now you might think I'm absolutely crazy, but that tail that you hear, that effect, that's that little part saves your mix and it helps, it links it together. Again, we're playing with the words of the music. Remember that feeling, a deeper emotion. And we're using those effects, we're creating that deep sort of, we'll wash with the reverb, with the shimmer, with the pitch. We're really, just really creating a space around the song. Again, highs and lows, deep as ocean. So we're really expanding out, and imagine this sort of canyon with all that big echo. That's what we're doing here, and creating that distance, okay? That space. One thing I would quickly like to say is that when I say we're creating space and distance, one aspect in engineering music and one way you can create distance in your vocal is to reverb. Okay, so I am right now quite close to the microphone. Okay, so we've created a very close connection. The proximity of effect here is very, very prominent. Okay, now I'll see if I can do this in if I remember to do this when I'm recording. But if we add reverb, we can now artificially create that distance. So now it's almost like I am moving back, and we create that separation. We sort of put a sort of cover over our voice, and we're creating that separation distance. Okay, and you can apply that same principle into when you're mixing, when you're DJ mixing. Not only when you're engineering and you're mixing on your song, right? You can do that as you're being a DJ sort of mixer. Now, I know that these terms get blurred. The common terms of doing a remix, when you're not really doing a remix, you're doing, say, an alternate version of a song. You're not remixing the song. Somehow these terms have become sort of, mixed and generalized terms for when you're doing a sort of alternate version of a song. It's like a dance cover. A dance cover when you're doing a remix is probably a more appropriate term. You're not remixing the song. And it becomes appropriate when the lyrics go, well, I was trying to turn back time. So again, we're arcing back to that time when progressive house was king, arcing back to time, we had the funk and we had all these other elements. So this is what I mentioned, when you can create more dimensions in your mix, not all of them, but when you are picking songs to mix, pick appropriate songs. You have all these songs available, why you pick that one? Don't just pick it because it's popular for the moment. Pick it because it might might share a message that you're wanting to convey. It might have an interesting groove. It might arc back to a time of that music. It might be a bit nostalgic for people. Does it remind you of something? Does it make you feel something? Don't just pick music for the hell of it. Pick songs that have a meaning to you, that you feel something from, and then you're able to create much more than a mix. You're creating that experience that I keep hammering in. And it reminds people how we're always trying to turn back time to that progressive house. Bring out and it brings back that nostalgia. Now you notice how we just allow the effect to double through. I'm always trying to turn. And we allow the effects to cut away, the tail finishes, it cuts, and then the drop. Again, we know that in that progressive house space, that's sort of the structure that that is in place, and we take advantage of that. So we know that okay, now we need to cut the vocals there. There's going to be a bit of a slight pause, perhaps a vocal. We want to make sure that we musically work with that, bring those effects back in so it's dry, and then the chorus hits. So let's look at one more time. But see, I almost went over. And be very careful. You can always go a little bit overboard. So just you need to be careful. But we cleared that. We're all good. Cool, what we're doing here is bringing in next song, getting the tempo ready, getting the cue point, still enjoying the music, vibing with it. But I know here that when that chorus finishes, I want to bring in the next one. We don't have much time. So we got to move quickly, enjoy it as much as we can, move quickly, bring in the next song and go. So another example here where I'm not really happy with what I've chosen and we're looking through the song, okay? I don't have enough time to pick another one, but I am confident with this song that I'm going to find a different moment that I can use. Perhaps I want to go straight into the next verse. I want to go straight into another chorus because this one's gone on longer than I wanted to. Or I decided to expand on this one a little bit. And I wanted to cut it earlier, but when I'm doing it now live, felt like it needed to be a bit longer. So we're extending it out, and now we're adjusting. So that cue point now, because I've made this a little bit longer, isn't going to work. So now we're trying to listen through and see, okay, which other one can we use to connect it with that's going to work now that we've extended things a little bit. Cool. There you go. And we'll be looking at what I do next later on. Awesome. You notice that sometimes I use both, not just one, depending on the stereo image, so the way that things are placed. Some songs only have certain things coming in from one. Sometimes I just need to hear things a little bit better to really get the scope of what's happening, how much of low end is there. And you can really use your headphones as a great resource. Most of the time when I have the second one on, it's because I want to hear particularly that low end. How much information is there? Is that song going to work well with this one? Is it in the right key? Am I not hearing something that I need to, particularly if switching quickly into that one, is it going to work? So just the key, some of those sort of things I'm looking at. But that's generally when I have both on, is just want to make sure. I want to make sure there's nothing that's going to surprise me if I do something like that. Yeah. Okay, so awesome. Some really cool things here that we obviously can be elaborated even more. But firstly, just creating that tension in your music more creatively. So you're creating these sort of pockets, and you imagine if you want to have a build up, right? You want to create that extension. and you want to create that dramatized sort of build up that we have in electronic music, fantastic. But you can do it more creatively because it's been abused and overused so much, and you don't want that. The key there is, so we use little sort of key moments within the song. So we create an effect here. We do then in the second one a bit of a break to stop things a little bit, bring that back in. More information is coming in. You're doing it musically, 4 bars, 8 bars, 12, 16 bars, picking moments. And sometimes doing it 12 bars just to cut things off a little bit unexpectedly and bringing it back in. And then we can create that, that sort of classic sort of big sort of build, but in the shorter sort of experience. Instead of having like 16 bars, you're having like 4 or 8 bars. Create that build and then let things go and release to create a more impactful moment. Then we make sure that all the effects come back. They're back in neutral, there's nothing left, and then we have a clean, dry signal of the original song. So when I say dry, meaning in this case, meaning just the original song. There's no wet effects coming in. There's no wet artifacts of the reverb, etc. coming in. We haven't blended those in. We're just having it as it was originally intended. Then bringing it through. Okay, so that's a really core sort of thing I wanted to sort of present here. And some other stuff, but just for this one, I think that's just the key sort of thing, is that creating that sort of tension and hype more creatively. And this is one example how that can be approached. So go and try that out. Pick sort of a build section that you want of a song that you want to sort of hype up into that sort of chorus or that main sort of EDM drop, and create sort of 3 separate tension moments that can really create that effect for you. Awesome. I'll catch you in the next one.